Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrutyam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayam Budirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangam langaiti girim yat krupatvam aham vande Shri Guru Dinataram Paramananda Madhavam. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, canto 1, chapter 3, text number 35. I need one volunteer.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna Yevam Janmani Karmani.
Evam Janmani Karmani.
Yevam Janmani Karmani.
Evam Janmani Karmani.
Hi Akartur Ajanasya cha.
Hi Akartur Ajanasya cha.
Hi Akartur Ajanasya cha.
Hi Akartur Ajanasya cha.
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
Veda guhyani hrutpate.
Veda guhyani hritpateha.
Veda guhyani hrutpate.
Veda guhyani hritpateha.
Anyone devotee would like to repeat these words?
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Evam janmani karmani he akartur ajasya cha ajan asya cha varnayanti smakavya veda guhyani hridpate. Thank you, Prabhu.
Vijay Tam-
Yes, Prabhuji. Can I say Prabhu? Yes, Evam janmani karmani yakurturajanyasa ajanasya cha varnayanti sma kavayo veda guhyani hripatet patehe. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
एवं जन्मानि कर्माणि ह्य कर्तुर्जनस्य च
Hi akartur ajanasya cha.
ह्य अकर्तुर्जनस्य च
I think Mataji internet problem.
वर्णयन्ति स्म कवयो वेदगुह्यानि हृत्पते.
Veda guhyani hridpate.
Since word meaning, translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Evam, thus, janmani, birth, karmani, activities, he, certainly, akartu, of the inactive, ajanasya, of the unborn, cha and varnayanti, describe. Sma, in the past, kavaya, the learned, veda guhyani, undiscoverable by the Vedas, Hrutpate, of the Lord of the heart. Translation. Thus, learned men describe the birds and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. Purport.
Prabhuji, maybe you can just drag it down, Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. Purport. Both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. The difference is that the so-called births and disappearances of the Lord are unlike those of the living beings. Living beings who take birth and then again accept death are bound by the laws of material nature. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of material nature, but are demonstrations of the internal potency of the Lord. They are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord that his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are all transcendental. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bondage. In the Srutis, it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme has nothing to do, but because he is omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different activities are all confidential, even to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls. We should always take advantage of the narrations of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshmur Unmilitam Yenam Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Suyata Patakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamsha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragana Danvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Chavisha Kanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostume Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusuti Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Paditanam Papanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. This is the chapter which is deeply about the various incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And Krishna is the source of all the incarnations. In this way, the Lord has exhibited all his wonderful pastimes, but in these words we will come to know how they have been enacted, how they are purifying factors for the conditioned souls like us. I request the co-host to kindly manage the mutes and unmutes during the class.
Yes, Prabhuji, sure.
We will go by the purport. Both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. So here we can understand that there is a huge difference between the conditioned souls and the supreme living being. And we have been hearing Bhagavatam from the so many Bhagavatam speakers, and by now we would have realized that there is a Supreme Lord who is Vibhu in his activities, and the living entities we are Anu, atom in size. The difference is that the so-called births and disappearances of the Lord are unlike those of the living beings. The living beings also, they take birth again and again, but Lord does not take birth like that. And his births and activities are completely spiritual. And when the Lord appears, he has got a specific purpose, and he has got a proper schedule, and he has got his associates also. So when Krishna, he wanted to descend, before him comes Balaram. Now we see next month, first we are going to celebrate Balaram Jayanti. Then comes Krishna, then comes Srimati Radharani. That means in a sequence, everything is properly organized. But when we try to organize, there are so many, defects, imperfections. And why? Because we are conditioned. When we begin an activity also, either at home or office, in the business segment and wherever, there are so many mistakes, so many problems, and it is not properly organized. Though it is organized, and it will become before our birth, the Lord was there. In Srimad Bhagavatam, in various references are there. Like Lord said, even before the creation, I am there, I will be there. Like that Lord is mentioning. A living entity is happily the part and parcel of the Lord. And thus his natural function is to render immediate service to the Lord. This is there in the preface of Bhagavad Gita. That is our constitutional position. If anybody is not knowing his constitutional position and acting according to his whimsical behavior, and there is no chance for his elevation to the spiritual kingdom and go back to the Godhead. Because Krishna knows every living entity, because he is situated in every living being's heart as the super soul, as Paramatma. He knows all the living beings. Like we individual, we know about ourselves, but we do not know what's happening in the mind of others. Like Lord is, Kshetra, Kshetrajna. Like we are tiny in our understanding with the Supreme Lord. And whatever comes to our mind, first it goes to the Paramatma, then comes to the mind, intelligence, etc. And Lord is sitting as a CCTV in every living entity's heart. And every action of ours is being recorded, just like how this Zoom session is being recorded. And where we can see so many CCTVs in ATMs and banks, schools, and various business premises. It is being, you are under surveillance of CCTV. And at the same time, just imagine whole our life, and we are under the surveillance of the Paramatma. Not only this birth, and so many previous millions and billions of previous births, Brahmanda Bharate, and this soul is rotting, in the so many bodies. And in all these bodies, Lord is there as CCTV. Every activity of ours, including our audio, video, text, whatever it may be, it is being recorded. Then what does the Lord do with this recording? Lord will try to connect us to his representatives. But we are unfortunate to identify who am I, who is the Lord, and what is the relationship. And this is called actually Adatu Brahma Jignasa. If anybody can able to inquire about this, his life will be successful. Then Krishna come into the picture and he can able to help all of us. That's the reason why today we have gathered in the morning to hear the all auspicious Srimad Bhagavatam. We will move forward what Prabhupada says in his next line. Now you see, this is our Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. We should not think that there are only 5 acharyas, but much before them, when you ascend like that, it goes to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna to Brahma, to Narada, to Vyasa, Madhva, then Padmanabha, Nrhari, Madhava, Akshobhya, Jaitirtha, like that. These are all the previous acharyas. and they are bona fide spiritual masters, and they have narrated so much of the Lord's pastime and his inactions, why he has appeared in the material world. The living beings who take birth and then again accept death are bound by the laws of material nature. This is the tendency, and it is the nature of this Bhautika Prapanch, contained with the three modes of material nature, Sattva, Rajo, Tamo. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of the material nature. We should not misunderstand. I am also appearing in this material nature. Lord is also coming. We should not think like that. But why does the Lord appear? And Prabhupada says here, he appears, and his appearance and disappearances are demonstrations of the internal potency of the Lord. He is exhibiting, he is demonstrating that one time he comes as a Varahadev, another time he comes as a Nrsimhadev, like that. He knows when to come, when not to come. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujami aham. Whenever there is a decline in the religious practices, then the Lord appears. So they are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. And self-realization, the Sanskrit word is, Atma Sakshatkara. And because we are conditioned in this material world, and we do not know who am I and the Supreme Lord, then how does this realization take place? Means the Lord arranges. How does he arranges? Like through his incarnations, his avataras, he arranges so many great sages, acharyas. They can only be able to narrate. The Lord appeared as Venkateshwara Swami in Tirupati. He Lord appeared as Badrinath in the Himalayas, and also in Srirangam as Ranganath Swami. And these various incarnations of the Lord automatically are represented by the acharyas, and they narrate us, and with their narration, they are also great sages. With their explanations, bhashyas, we can only able to understand. Just like our Srila Prabhupada has translated Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam from Sanskrit to English. And until then,
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, screen is not changing. Prabhu, I think you have paused the sharing.
I'm in the same screen. The living beings who take birth.
It is not reflecting for us, Prabhu. We are still stuck in the purport.
Oh, Krishna. Now?
Yes, Prabhuji, now we can see.
Yes,
Now,
Prabhu. Now we can
which
see
one you
the
are going to see
Brahma
now?
Madhava Gaudiyasambhadaya.
Okay. Now the text is disappeared, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah.
Now?
Now the next living beings, Prabhu.
Okay, I will move forward here. So they are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization, and it is not for simply the Lord comes and goes away, but the Lord arranges himself. Okay. Now, what do you see? The blank screen?
Yes, Prabhu. Blank screen.
Okay. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7:14-8, there is some references given. Srinvan Bhagavato Abhikshanam Avatarakatamrutam. What does it mean? In the Shastras, the Puranas, and other Vedic literatures, there are so many narrations describing the transcendental activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everyone should hear them. How should we hear? It is Srila Prabhupada says again and again. Prabhu, what is the benefit in hearing again and again? Means how much ever we hear, still we want to hear more and more. That is the nectar. And the nectar of the pastimes of the Lord. And there is no boring also. Like we have been chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra for the last so many years. And we are also chanting the holy names of the Lord, like Krishna, Madhava, Govinda, Madhusudana, like that. We are chanting, but we are not getting bored. In the same way, the pastimes of the Lord also we have to hear again and again. Then the more we hear, it is just like, butter. The more you churn, the more the taste of the butter. Similarly, the Lord pastimes are also like that. For example, even if we read the entire Bhagavad Gita every day, this is said by Srila Prabhupada. Entire Bhagavad Gita every day, all 18 chapters, 700 slokas. In each reading, we shall find a new explanation. This is the nature of transcendental literature. Okay, we move forward. Hope you can see some text now.
Yes, Prabhu. On top you can see
Yeah, it is
Bhagavad
stated
Gita.
in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord that his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are all transcendental. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain a realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bondage. But we are unable to take this advantage. Srila Prabhupada says, however and whatever it may be, simply by meditating, like Krishna appeared in Vrindavan and he did uncommon activities. For example, he did Govardhan Leela. Like before you go to sleep, you watch a video on Govardhan Leela. Throughout your sleep, you can happily enjoy how the Lord has performed this Govardhan Leela, how Indra has poured, this continuous rain, but nothing happened to the Vrajavasis, and how the Lord has lifted this Govardhan hill and held it for 7 days, and it's all wonderful. And he gave darshan constantly for 7 days, and he made them completely satisfied, because early in the morning he goes to Vrindavan. There are 12 forests, Vrindavan, Bandivan, Madhuravan, like that. He goes to various forests along with Balram and Gopabais, and he grazes the cows, and he enjoys a lot there by playing and killing the demons there. And when he is in the forest, the Brajavasis, they feel kind of morose. Yashoda also, he feels alone. There is a viraha away from Krishna. But when Krishna comes in the evening, and Yashoda, Mother Yashoda was ready to receive him and bathe him, and in the night, and he has activities with all these gopis. Then again in the morning, his schedule is the same. Then, if anybody able to can meditate on these pastimes of the Lord, you call it is any Leela, Kaliya Mardana, or any other Leela, and we will be really blissful, and we forget whatever we have all material hankerings. That's why in Bhagavad Gita 4.9 it is mentioned that Janma karma chame divyam yevam vetti tattvataha tvakta deham punarjanma netimam eti so Arjuna. Lord says here, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the this is the bonanza Lord gives for us. But how many of us are taking advantage of this? Here Krishna gives assurance that Janma Karma Chame Divyam. His Janma and his Karma, that means his birth and his activities are completely transcendental. It is not like, ours, like the last birth I was a dog, and before birth I was a donkey. And fortunately, this birth I became a human. So Lord does not appear like that. Because of our karmic reactions, we are taking so many bodies and not realizing that we are the servant of the Lord. But Lord appears, he tries to facilitate, he sends reminders, and he gives lot of support and help for all of us by arranging Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam classes, devotees association. So much he does, but we are so foolish, we are unable to take benefit of this. But the Lord is crying a lot for us. And see, so many janmas we are changing the bodies, but soul remains the same. But in how many bodies we have changed, Krishna also follows us as a Paramatma. He has been waiting and waiting when this living entity will come back to me. And he has so much patience, and his patience cannot be compared with any other thing in this material world. Okay. Hope you can see the next screen also.
Yes, Prabhuji, it is moving good.
Okay. In the Shrutis, it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. The Supreme has nothing to do, but because he is omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically, right? So the scientists are so foolish till today also, with their limited scope of telescope, they are trying to find, so many other new planets, but they are unable to find. And they also find so many other planets, and they want to name it also. And by the just breathing of Lord Vishnu, innumerable planets are emanating from his breath. And who is there to count all these things? But still we are so dull-minded, and foolishly we are counting, there is a nebula, there is a Saturn, Pluto, like that we are trying to count. If we can see this picture, the Lord, has created all this whole cosmos, and he simply became a witness. And so many planets are emanating from his sweat, from his breath, they are emanating. And Lord has full control over all these planets. Just like when sun comes away the orbit, and we say it is a summer. Slightly, when the Lord comes close to that, we call it as a summer. And there is a small deviation, we call it as a winter or rainy season, like that. And in the oceans, anytime just like said some cities who are all on the seaside, like in Bombay, Chennai, or in foreign countries like some other cities, they are close to the ocean. But the ocean is not coming, inside the city. Who is controlling that? The Lord is controlling all of them, because they are all under the control of the Lord. Maya dakshina prakriti soite sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagat aparividyate. He says jagat means the whole cosmos. In this way, Lord can able to do innumerable activities, but it is our foolishness to misunderstand. And as a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different activities are all confidential, given to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. So, why his activities are confidential? Because Krishna is beyond the Vedas. Vedescha sarvayar aham yeva vedya. Vedanta krut vedavit eva chaham. He says, I am the compiler of the Vedas. Even if you read all the Vedas, I am to be understood. I am to be known. That is why, even if anybody has got a full understanding of the Vedas, but still he cannot understand Krishna. One day, one devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, you have given so much information about the Vedic literature. Then at the end you say that you cannot understand Krishna. How is it possible? As we have to understand Krishna fully, otherwise how can we serve the Supreme Lord? Then Prabhupada replied, yes, we have to read all the Vedic literatures, and we have to conclude that we cannot understand Krishna. Though you have understood all the Vedas, but still you cannot understand Krishna. And this is the conclusion. So in this cosmos, 100% nobody can understand Krishna. But what is the need? Even Krishna asked the Arjuna also. When Arjuna went on asking so many questions about the material world, spiritual world, then Krishna stops him. Oh Arjuna, what is the need in knowing all this? Krishna gives some small examples. I am the string in the pearls, and just like he is a thread in a garland, and everything rests on me, and there is no need to know in detail. Then what are we supposed to do, being conditioned souls? It's very simple. If you know that he is the Supreme Father, and you be his loving child, and there is a loving reciprocation goes on, and in this loving reciprocation, Krishna is happy, and the all living entities are so blissful. That is what mentioned. Now, in this picture it said, because I am transcendental, beyond the both and infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that of the Supreme Person. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. This Lord himself says. Nobody knows Krishna 100%. That is the secret. We move forward. Thus, a learned man described the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. So there are so many things which are not described in the Vedic literatures. So a few of the things I just like to share with you, so that we will also be enlightened in a proper way. For example, Radha Rani's name is not at all mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is also one of the best Vedic literatures, but Radha Rani's name is not there. And the reason is, when exalted devotees like Vyasadeva, when he starts writing about Radharani, and he will be, completely in a blissful state, he might forget to complete Srimad Bhagavatam. That is a problem with the pure devotees. So, but Radharani name is indirectly there. Can someone help me? What was the name mentioned? Indirectly, Radharani name was mentioned.
Anuradha.
Aradhyate.
Anuradha also mentioned.
So we can find the Radharani. Like when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he hears the name of Krishna or Radha, then he will, he will have Ashtasattvika Vikar, and he will be in fully ecstatic form. And that is the reason why Radharani name was not mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, but he is the pleasure potency of the Supreme Lord. And Krishna's pastimes are also undiscoverable. He himself empowered, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami to find those places, and he ordered them. You go to Vrindavan and you find out various places, and you make some temples there, and we make people worship me. Only Krishna can able to locate all these things. Even when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, he traveled from South India to South India. There in Tiruvattar temple, he excavated one Samhita, the Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter he could able to find out in Adikeshava Perumal temple. We had been there for this temple, and now there is a recent update from Jagat Sakshi Prabhu saying that in this Adikeshava temple, Tiruvattar, some small place is given for our ISKCON, and there they are planning to establish the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he visited that place. He excavated the undiscoverable things in the Vedic literatures. He only know where it is there. So these things are not possible for common people like us. Okay, so we move forward. So in this way, the Lord is exhibiting all his pastimes, and common people like us could able to understand through the acharyas. Otherwise, it is a paramaguhyam, and it is not at all understood by us. It's because of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada and his followers, we can able to know certain things, but there is no need to know all in 100%. Simply know Krishna and what is our constitutional position, and keep chanting Hare Krishna and be associate of the devotees. So the summary goes like this. Krishna is confidential and undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. Then he is the Lord of the heart. The demonstrations of the Lord are described by great sages for the purpose of self-realization, not for something else. He is omnipotent. Everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. In the sense, when the Supreme Lord came out of the jail in Mathura, in the lap of, on the head of his father Vasudeva, and his these chains got broken automatically. The gates of the jail are opened. Everybody was put into the sleep. How does it happen? And this is the omnipotency of the Lord. And when Vasudeva comes to the Yamuna River gives a pathway to the Lord. And in this way, these are the uncommon activities. And also, when these flowers blossom, when the seasons change, and when there is a rain showers, and the oceans, receive the water from the rivers, and the fruits gets ripened, all these things happen automatically, but it is naturally just by the will of the Lord. So we should always take advantage of the narrations of the activities of the Lord. Like in Bhagavad today in the temple, what is the pastime is going to happen? Or in Krishna book, there are 90 pastimes happened, and how Lord has performed. And tomorrow, what is the festival? It is the Balaram Jayanti. Krishna, himself again expanded himself as Baladev. And Baladev pastimes also very wonderful. This way we can able to meditate how the Lord has performed, how he stole butter, how he teased the gopis, and how he was played by the Gopavais. And these are all, very sweet pastimes. And when we completely immerse in the Leela of the Lord, and our anarthas and our bad karmas will be vanquished, we will have a pure heart, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, by chanting the holy name of the Lord. At the time we can able to understand the Lord, and we can able to see the Lord face to face also. So with this, I can conclude. The time is up now, because we have some other services in the temple also. So I thank you very much for giving this small opportunity, and I welcome if you have any reflections from your side. Hare Krishna. You all can switch on your videos and unmute yourself.